Dermatologist. So we have, by the way, do you know what a rabbi means?
Teacher?
Exactly. A rabbi means a teacher. And what does a doctor mean? A doctor, as a matter of fact, is a teacher too. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to learn together. I'm learning from the rabbi, and hopefully you're the beneficiaries of that as well, because when I spoke to my son, my oldest son, and he listened to what I had summarized from everything that I have discussed with the rabbi, he's like, why didn't you guys don't do like a discussion, a Parsha like that with the rabbi? I said, well, when are you coming along? I'll come along. And you can see he's not here now because he's busier than us.
No, I think a Parsha, I was thinking about this week, is probably the most wonderful time pressures that we have. You got this last week was 2 portions. This week is 2 portions.
Right.
Acharei and Kedoshim, and in Jewish law, in the Shulchan Aruch it says you got to finish it by Shabbos morning, and right, you got to finish both parshas. So a Jewish person, if they're doing it correctly, will learn the entire 5 books of Moses, the entire Chumash, once a year. That's what we celebrate.
Right.
I mean, unfortunately, October 7th, that was Simchas Torah, that was Shmini Atzeres. But you're supposed to finish it and complete it once a year. So I think if we take it week by week, sort of break it down into different themes, different concepts, different mitzvos, different ideas, which these parshiot, these 2 parshios, have inside of it, I think it could be very beneficial to us. And if anyone likes it, who's listening, beneficial to them also.
You heard it from the rabbi, from the teacher. So today we're going to be discussing a double portion. You got a double benefit. The idea is that you will be learning about Kedoshim and Acharei Mot. And Rabbi, could you tell us a little bit about what in like a minute, what is the Parsha Acharei Mot and Kedoshim? In a minute, what are they about? And then in a nutshell.
If I remember correctly, Acharei Mot talks about the holiday of Yom Kippur, the day of Yom Kippur, the intense service that they call Gadol,
the high priest.
The high priest. If you've ever been to Yom Kippur davening, it's not just about the chazan, the cantor. The cantor sings beautiful songs. It's about the avoda, how the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, used to serve in the temple when we had the Beit HaMikdash in Jerusalem, and he talks about all the sacrifices and all the different nuances of the day, the fact that you can't eat, the fact that we fast, and it also talks about the beginning the deaths of Aaron's 2 sons, Nadav and Avihu, and the consequences of that. And the Kedoshim is replete with dozens of laws. Kedoshim, can we start talking about Kedoshim first?
Right. So the other Parsha is
Acharei Mot.
Acharei Mot and Kedoshim. Yeah. So we have here the idea of the holiest of holies and also the idea of chosenness. So we decided on this.
How do you get to chosenness?
From the idea of God telling us that we're
Kedoshim to you.
Chosen. Well, you shall be holy to me.
You shall be holy.
And not you are holy to me.
Okay, so is it a command? Is it a mitzvah?
So
is it a mission statement? Is it a promise? What does that mean, Kedoshim to you? It's actually I've told you this well. It's an argument. I was arguing about
it's a good question. What would it mean to me? I think I'm already affected by everything that we discussed, but if it's not saying you are holy, it basically means it's not inherent.
It's something you have to. You should be holy.
You should be holy because I'm holy. So it's kind of like be as you want your kids to be better than you. You want if you are following the covenant, if you're following God's laws, you're trying to be following the rules that your parents give you. And if you have a contract with God or a contract with your employer or your wife or whoever it is, you have to follow it in order to continue in that mission statement.
Well, that's the way you view it, I think, is that it's a express words in the Torah, black and white, Kedoshim to you. But the way we learned for many years is that there are multiple different commentaries on the Torah. We know how many mitzvahs are there, 613. The Rambam, Maimonides, has his Sefer HaMitzvahs, book of mitzvahs, counting all 613. And there are other books that are written explaining each and every mitzvah. On this mitzvah, Kedoshim to you, Rashi says something very interesting. Rashi says that you should be holy and not engage yourself in immoral activities or in sexual activities, things that are about the body, about the Romans or the Greeks emphasize. The Jews have to have a certain sense of holiness within that arena of life. Right? A person should be involved in extracurricular activities, so to say. That's how Rashi, or Shlomo Yitzchaki, the 11th century commentator from France, that's how he understood. The Ramban Nachmanides says something that's
His grandson.
not his grandson. That's the Tom.
Rabbi Tom.
The Rambam's Moshe ben Nachman. He was a 12th century, 13th century, excuse me, rabbi in Spain, Toledo, Barcelona. He ended up landing in Jerusalem because he had a debate with Pablo Christiani. We discussed it many times. I think in 1263 in Toledo, there was a famous debate that pinned, I guess, Jewish theology in regard to Christian theology. It's a famous debate that's recorded by those who were involved.
And he won the debate, but they made his life very miserable.
King James visited his synagogue one of the Shabbos afterwards, which was an amazing thing, and he had freedom of speech, and we discussed this.
Right. And by the way, he said to him that I've never seen the wrong cause defended so well, and he gave him the prize of the competition he won.
Right, but I think he was still looked at as offending those who were in power, and therefore he had to run away. He felt, and he ended up in Jerusalem, where he where he saw how the Jews had to live there very, very difficult times. My point is, the Ramban, Moshe ben Nachman, understands this mitzvah of Kedoshim to you is that as Jews we have multiple mitzvahs, 613 mitzvahs the Torah gives us, and it's not referring to one specific mitzvah, which is a positive commandment, or one specific avera, which is a negative commandment. It's referring to even if things are permitted to us. This is actually a very deep idea. Even if things are permitted to us, we have to be holy. We have to find a way to connect to God. Right?
For example, can you be more?
For example, a modern day example is it permitted to go? This is what they call a yeshivish example. Hey, here's an example. Is a Jew allowed to buy a car? Of course he can. Can he drive a Maserati, a Ferrari? What's the most expensive car that there is, guys? What's the most expensive car that there is? A Bugatti. Bugatti. How much is it?
Like $3 million.
$3 million. Just $3 million. Is it proper for a Jewish person to buy a Bugatti $3 million car? He's allowed to.
Right.
There's nothing. He makes a 10, 15, 20, 30. Not every Jew. I'm on that category.
No,
I'm just a lowly rabbi. But the point is it something that is proper, not proper? It's a debate. But the Ramban saying that balance in living life is it to for any person, but to go on a $60 million, a $3 billion yacht with 82 waiters and waitresses and an 85 set of symphony orchestra. There's nothing wrong. And you have the best cuts of kosher meat and the best cuts of.
When are we going?
Right now it's a $5 million dinner that you're helping myself, yourself, all our friends. There's nothing not permitted. The food is kosher, the ambiance is kosher, everyone's dressed properly. Is that something that's necessarily Jewish? And the Ramban says that in the way you live your life, be holy. Now that's a question. What is holiness? How would you describe? You've been around the world, right? So I want to put the question back to you.
Yes.
What's holiness in Judaism?
In Judaism.
Or holiness in general?
Well, I think holiness comes also from the word being whole and being complete. Or like you say, we wish people Shabbat Shalom and complete the holy Shabbos.
Peaceful Shabbos.
A peaceful Shabbos, a complete Shabbos, a Shalem. I think you have to have a yin and yang, to use the Eastern philosophy. And if you start pushing into different extremes, you may be going down rolling a rabbit hole. And to be holy is, I remember when I was in Israel, we had on our shirts, we had to wear it. I mean, how many people read it? But I guess it was in your face, like the tzitzis are meant to be worn by the Jews to remind us of the mitzvot. Those are the things with the white and blue that the French is right around us. Is atznei alechet, meaning walk humbly. So I think humility is one of the cornerstones of holiness. And that doesn't mean being ascetic.
Right, interesting. To be an ascetic mean to be like a monk. Nothing wrong with someone who wants to be a monk. But in Judaism, should a person go to some temple in the Tibetan mountains and be alone all the time? Is he fulfilling the mitzvahs? I would like to say very simply, every Jew has holiness inside of them, and the truth is, I like what you said. We had it recently in Daf Yomi. That it's a verse I think in Micha, and it says, "Walk humbly in front of God." And extremes, the Rambam and Maimonides, in many of his books, but specifically talks about the idea of the great median road, the middle road. He said a person shouldn't be too generous, shouldn't be too stingy. A person shouldn't be too much of anything is not good. Too right, too left. Or the
It's
middle.
very hard. It's very hard to
But-
find that
Well,
real
I find
perfect ground.
there's a great story. I think I told you before.
Which one?
It's a apocryphal story from the 60s.
Uh-huh.
Many of our Jewish brothers and sisters, many people in the world were looking for spirituality. And the Catskills, you can find the remnants of hotels or centers for, I don't know, I can't pronounce it, from, I guess, Indian gurus or holy people and many people that went there were Jews looking for a connection in spirituality, something greater that there is in the world. I wasn't around in the 60s and 70s, but this is what I'm told. And there's a story of Mrs. Schwartz, a lady from Borough Park, who makes her way to the mountains of India, and there are throngs of people listening to the great guru. If I'm getting any terminology wrong, please forgive me. And she pushes her way, Mike, through different the throngs of people, and the guru's sitting there, and everyone's basking in his greatness, right? And he sees her, and she sees him. She walks up to him and says, "Milton Schwartz, it's enough. You got here, you're the guru. Now come home to Brooklyn and become a doctor." You know,
so he was basically he was a Jewish guy.
I heard that from Jonathan Sachs. But I heard it many times since then. The idea is that as a Jew, you don't have to find more. You have to look more than the Torah and Chazal to understand. Holiness isn't about a robe and
Chazal means Chachamenu Zichronam Livracha.
sages.
Our sages.
Right.
God bless their memory.
I think, in the morning we're learning Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the book of Jewish law, and they were talking about making a bracha of Asher Yatzar. After a person uses the restroom, or they make a bracha thanking God for that their system, and you could talk about this, their medical system, everything's working the way it's supposed to.
I have to tell you, you don't appreciate it enough. It's beautiful.
Why don't you explain it?
No. You don't appreciate enough until something is broken. And people don't appreciate their skin, or they don't appreciate their joints. I don't appreciate it. And I started working out and watching my spine and other things because I had problems. So what you're saying to learn gratitude, having an attitude of gratitude is so important.
It's more than that. It's more than that. When you eat something, a nice Cabernet Sauvignon, from anywhere, nice, Baron Herzog from California.
You're not talking to me.
Or Israel. I don't talk to you. Don't drink, I know. But I always try to give them bottles of wine for the Shabbos or for the holidays. I don't drink wine. But when you experience a beautiful, nice bottle of wine that God gave to the world through grapes and vines and pressing and aging, and you make a bracha of Borei Pri Hagafen, what you're doing, a lot of religions do it also, but in Judaism, you're making a bracha. Thank you, God, for this fruit of the vine. It's amazing. You're chomping into a burger. You're having a wonderful family afternoon Sunday with a barbecue. Who doesn't love a barbecue? Mike agrees. He loves barbecue, right? You like barbecue? Everyone loves a barbecue. But before you chomp into that 62-ounce steak, medium rare? Medium rare, right? With a nice chimichurri sauce and some ciabatta bread and a nice bottle of wine on the side. You're making brachas. Hamotzi lechem and aretz on the bread, which covers the food. A Borei Pri Hagafen on the wine. You're infusing a holiness in your daily life. A bracha of Asher Yatzar.
So in what is then your definition of holiness?
Holiness is living as a Jew, connecting to God.
For Jews.
Well, again, this is a Jewish podcast.
Okay. Can you say for someone who's not Jewish, what would the holiness be for them?
Again, Judaism is not an exclusive religion per se. We don't. Again, there are the 7 Noahide laws we can talk about another time. There's everybody has their place in the world. The 70 nations of the world from the Bible. On the holiday of Sukkot, there are sacrifices that used to be brought in the temple on behalf of everybody.
So the Jews used to bring the sacrifice
on behalf of the world.
Really?
On behalf of the 70 nations.
You're kidding?
That's why there are 70 bulls
Wow.
that are brought in Sukkot. They're brought on behalf of all the nations.
What they did it to kind of like thank them or to wish God to help
pray for them that the world should run well. There shouldn't be any earthquakes. There shouldn't be any monsoons.
Wow, that's so nice. And that's like how long ago?
That was before the temple was destroyed.
before the first time.
But in Musaf, in the prayer we have on Sukkot, which is a holiday, that's why the Jews have all these huts outside, right? And we live in the hut for 7 days. In the Musaf,
it's fun. In Israel, I remember us looking forward to that and trying to create.
well, we have you over. That's why we have you over at my house for Sukkot. But the idea is that we pray on behalf of everybody. There are roles, and that's interesting. You brought up the idea of chosen nation. I don't think it means higher nation necessarily. It's not a God forbid an Aryan thing. It's not a. I've heard so many different clips that the chosen nations in an anti-Semitic way, where like we have the Torah, God, Abraham chose God, Isaac, Jacob. We accepted the Torah. Everyone else rejected it at Har Sinai at Sinai. So we got the Torah. God chose us. It comes, I think you use the word of responsibility.
Right.
There's an essence of responsibility to the world. We have 613 mitzvahs you got to keep. Right. Those are our connection points to God, right? We keep those mitzvahs. That's the blueprint of our lives.
And there are two things that I'd like to
go ahead.
No. There are two things that I'd like to mention regarding what the rabbi said, which is really fundamental and very deep, and that is two things. If you look at some of the righteous people that are considered an example for the Jews, they were actually not Jews to begin with. Look at Miriam. Look at the daughter of Pharaoh who took Moses. Batya, who took Moses.
Her name is
and saved.
It's interesting, but she saved Moses.
She saved Moses. The next one is Rabbi Akiva. Right?
Rabbi Akiva had chosen. No, Akiva is instead.
Akiva.
Rabbi Akiva,
same
Talmud.
From the yes.
Talmud. He was the Tana. He was in the Mishnah. He came from that's converts.
He was a convert, and he was actually considered maybe descendant of Sisera, who's the enemy. The enemy of the Jews. And then Ruth, who was not Jewish, she was a Moabite, and
she was a princess.
Right, and
most people don't know that her great grandson was David, right? King David, who fought his cousin Goliath. There are two sisters. I'm not going to review the whole entire book of Ruth
next time. It's just fine.
Next time.
But the idea that I was trying to show is that those people like Rabbi Akiva we looked up to, he was a son of a convert.
Right. But yes. And Shmaya Valtalion, we discussed them. They were great teachers and rabbis. They were the leaders of that generation. Both of them were converts or children of converts. True. Listen, it says 36 times in the Torah. According to some, maybe even more times, the Haftarah said, to love the convert. We don't go out and proselytize necessarily. Right. We don't do that. If someone comes and says, I want to be a Jew, the rabbi's going to turn and say, you sure?
Right.
Are you sure you want to be a Jew?
Because it's a big responsibility, and that's what we're talking about. The holiness.
No, conversion is very serious, obviously.
Doing it right, because you choose to follow the order. It's kind of like Leif Babin and what's the book called? Extreme Ownership. Leif Babin and Mark. I forgot the other one. Forgive me, please, if you hear it. But they're
forgiven.
Yeah, you're forgiven by you. Thank you. So, Mike. Okay, I forgot. Sorry.
What did the book talk about?
So the book talks about the fact that you have to take extreme ownership. You have to take responsibility and not blame someone else. And the other thing that I want to show is the proof in the fact that you don't inherently, it's not a genetic thing like the Aryan race being chosen, but rather a thing that you have to continuously earn. And the way you can see it is when we're talking in the Haftarah, which is a very interesting, we can talk about later how the Haftarah came. It was your Haftarah on your Bar Mitzvah?
Sure.
Wow. Yeah. So it talks about Amos. Amos was one of the minor prophets. Minor because it's very, very short. And he lived during the time of extreme success of the Israelite 10 tribes nation. They were making a lot of money. Land was expanded, and it was around 760 before the Common Era. And he told them, look, I know you guys are thinking that you are kings, but you lost your responsibilities. And God does not think that you're any more special than others. Look at the Ethiopians. You think you're better than the Ethiopians? You're not. You think you're better than the Philistines or the others? You're not. I have taken the Philistines into their land as well, just like I've taken you into your land. So you have to keep the covenant. If you will not keep the covenant, I will not stay with you. But they said, poo, you don't know anything. Look at how successful, how powerful we are. And what happens 31 years later? The Assyrians come 722 before the common era, and they expel them. What are the 10 tribes? We're still searching. So that's the idea. If you want to be chosen, it's a responsibility that you have to work on a daily basis. Just like if you're choosing to, am I bringing a bad example? Well, how about if you're choosing to be in good shape, fit? You have to watch your diet. You have to exercise on a daily basis. It's not just, oh, I wish to be that.
Well, that's everything in life. A person
exactly.
Again, but this is a religious. This is a national. This is a.
I'm trying to make it more simple and understandable.
Sure, of course. Interesting.
To non-rabbinical students.
I'm with you.
Okay, all right.
I'm with you. I just think for the Haftarah, a person should try to look at it and see it inside to see Dr. Levitt's point over there. So many more mitzvahs in this expression.
So tell me about.
Oh,
I love that
your fellow as yourself.
So who was the first person who said it? Because I often hear it. Huh?
It's in the Torah. It's in this expression.
You heard that? Because often
Rabbi Kiva said it's that cloud called about Torah. But it's like a very nice commandment. Love your fellow as you love yourself.
What does Jesus say? What did he say?
I'm not very familiar.
Jesus said, treat
your neighbor
as yourself. The same thing.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the Gemara, I think Hillel said, "Acharei." I think you
don't do to others what you don't want done to yourself. Right. So he said the negative.
Everything in the Torah is talked about and debated and explained in the Mishnah, in the Talmud, in the rabbis' rabbinical writings.
We'll talk about what the Mishnah and the Talmud
are. If you look at Rashi on the commentary on the Torah and the Ramban and the Rambam, they struggle. There's an inherent question: how feasible or real is it for someone to love what are the obligations? What are the Jewish law obligations? If I buy you a suit, does I buy you a suit? Because I love myself, is that mitzvah for me to not buy you a suit? Again, maybe a couple.
Interesting.
If you buy a Bugatti, right, the $3 million car, yes, buy me a Bugatti? The answer probably is yes. But the question is, what is that?
When I buy one, I'll buy you one. It's not planning.
Like Kedoshim
to buy one myself.
Oh man, like it, just 10% of the call. Like the mitzvah of Kedoshim Tio, this is a mitzvah also. So mitzvahs aren't just ethical and moral, but it's not just that. It's a book of Jewish law. How do you fulfill this mitzvah? What are the obligations?
So how do you love your neighbor as yourself?
I think there are levels. Yeah, we have to get into it. It's a much broader and longer discussion on Shabbos. You come to my house. I'll show you where it's written about.
I just thought about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why not go like Hillel said? Don't do to your neighbor.
I think that's
what you.
The application. What Hillel is saying is the basic idea is, this is my interpretation. This is according to some. Don't do unto others what you don't like for yourself. The basic idea is most humans are not going to love their neighbor as much as they love themselves. We love ourselves. And just because I want to buy, I'm giving simple examples, buy a Bugatti or an ice cream doesn't mean I'm going to buy
you. Really want a Bugatti, I think.
No, I'm not into cars. I'm really not into cars. I'm not.
Guys, you're following? Anybody wants to donate Bugatti?
Stop. That's not the point. That's my job to raise money. The point is, I think what Hillel's saying is, this is probably the lowest, idea of this is, if you don't like people blocking your driveway, don't block his driveway. Right? If you don't like people,
stop blocking my drive. That just happened to us today, right? Amazing.
Don't push your shopping cart into my back of my shoe. If you don't like to be done to yourself, be cognizant of others' needs and pain, and that's the idea. I think what he's saying is, this is the lowest common denominator. There have been people in history that have fulfilled the parameter of the highest level of the Haftarah. Loving your fellows, of course, the great rabbis and rebbes and Balei Chesed, people that were unbelievable in their kindness, of course there were.
Let me ask you a question.
But is that the obligation? That's the question in Jewish law. I'm a halachist, right? I'm not just a moralist. I look at the Torah and I say 650 mitzvahs. What is it? Right? It's a lot. Again, everything in Torah Judaism, everything in the Torah has to have a definition. It's not just a fly-by-night type of idea that we don't define what it is. So it's a beautiful idea, and try to love your fellow will bring friendship and camaraderie, and to be nice to people, like we discussed last week. It's a great imperative in Judaism. But what is this mitzvah per se? That's the question. And there's a lot to study on it.
Very, very deep. Very, very deep. Well, how about, I think we're running out of time and the rabbi has to be somewhere else. So if you enjoyed it, please let us know, send us some likes. And if you can share with us a story of what you did something special to perhaps someone else. What have you done this week? Or what you wouldn't want to have done to you that happened to you. Please share with us.
Or how do people find spirituality in this world? Well, how do you live as a religious person, as a connected person to a higher power? Let's say, right?
So what do you do to get that spiritual boost?
Or do you, or should you, or can you, right? How do you see God in nature? How do you see as a Jewish person? How does mitzvahs make you a better person? How does Torah make you a better person? What have you done lately? Is it charity? Is it learning Torah? What makes you a better Jew?
Share with
Those
us,
to you.
and we'll be honored to share it live next time on our episode, which will be Thursday evening. God willing, as you said, we'll do better time management.
No, that was just angry. That's all good. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I wish you all a good night. Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos. And I'd like to thank the crew. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eduardo and Mike. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, that's good. What makes you a better Jew? Yeah.